So we will make a truth table for each of the propositional forms. Now, some of them are out of order. For example, I have item K near to B, but I've just arranged this in a way that we have the tables for when we have a single proposition, as in the case of the first table, when we have two propositions in the second table, and then three propositions in the last table. So let's begin by filling out our truth tables. We begin with the table for a single proposition. We only have P. So when P, we consider the case where it's true and false. Thus, not P is false and true. So for the first one, we want the conjunction of P and not P. Now, we have to remember that the conjunction is true only when both propositions are true or else it is false. So we have true and false. So in this case, we do have a false and then false and true, so false. So this is what we call a contradiction for item A. So this one's done. Let's do item B. So we have P or not P. So this case, it's called the law of excluded middle. And we have to remember that the disjunction is true when either of them are true. So we have true or false, therefore it's true, and then false or true, and therefore it is true. Now, over here, for this one, we do have, this is called a tautology, where it is always true. So, true here. Now, for K, I accidentally miswrote it. It was supposed to be P and P. So let me just kind of erase this thing over here. So we have just P and P. So in the case of P and P, we do true and true. It is true. And then false and false. It is false. So it is P and P has the same truth value as just P itself. So let's put a little check mark that we did K. Now let us consider the table number 2, where we have propositions P and Q interacting with each other. So this is true, true, false, false, and this is true, false, true, false. So not P is the negation of P. So whenever we have true, we'll just put false. And then whenever we have false, we'll just do true. And same thing for Q. Let us negate Q. So this would be false, true, false, true. So item C, we want P and not Q. So we do have a conjunction. And as we said previously, it is true when both propositions are true, or else it is false. So P and not Q, we're looking at the first, let me just move that up a little bit. We're looking at the first column with the fourth column. So over here we do have, let's see, true and false, that is false. And then we have true and true, so true, and then false and false, false, and then false and true, which is false. So this is the table for C. Let us just put a check mark over there. Let us consider now item D. So for item D, we'll kind of need an intermediary step because it'll be too much to just do it straight at once. So let's do the truth table for Q or not Q. So this is once more the law of excluded middle. So it is a disjunction between Q and not Q. So here, let us just kind of write this down. We're comparing the second column. We're actually joining the second column and the fourth column. So we have true or false, which is true, then false or true, which is true, then true or false, which is true, then false or true, which is true. So this is just a tautology. And now we're doing P and Q or not Q. So we are joining columns, let's see. We are joining columns 1 and columns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, column 6. So let us join these two columns. This is true and true, which is true, true and true, which is also true, false and true, which is false, and then false and true, which is false. So let's tick question D off. And now we're doing question E, and once more, we do need an intermediary step where we're joining P and Q. So for this table here, we're joining the first and the second column. So we have true and true, which is true, true and false, which is false, false and true, which is false, and then false and false, which is false. So now we're ready to do question E, which is P and Q, or not Q. So we're joining columns. Let's see, we're joining columns 4. That is column 4, and then let's see, column 8 over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So we have true or false for not Q, but then because it is a disjunction, the or, whenever we have a true, it's just true. And then we have false here, or true for not Q, so that is true. And then we have false for P and Q, or false for not Q, so false. And lastly, we have false for P and Q, or true for not Q, so that is true. So over here we have, let me just make this more F looking. So over here we have completed question E. Let's do then question F. So for question F, we are joining, let's see. Oh, we're just doing not P and Q. So we are negating this column over here. So let us negate it. So not true is false, and then not false is true, not false is true, and then not false is true. So we are done with with item F. We're going to check this off. Let's see what else is missing. Oh, and then we have item H. So we have not P and not Q. So we are joining here columns 3 and columns 4. So we're joining false and false, which is false, and then false and true, which is false, and then false, true and false, which is false, and lastly true and true, which is true. So we can check that off. That is item H. So we're done with most of these. Now let's just do the last table, right? So for the last table, we do have three propositions. So let us fill this in. This is true, 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 and then false, 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 and false. Oops, and I did add an unnecessary column. So we'll just ignore that, right? Maybe I'll just kind of put a dashed pink line to show that we're ignoring this. And then let's fill in Q. So for Q, we're doing true, true, false, false, and then true, true, and then false, false, and lastly for R, we're doing true, false, true, false, true, false, and then true and false. All right, so now that we've mapped every possible combination between P, Q, and R, let us just fill in these auxiliary tables that we'll use to fill in item G, I, and J. So for this fourth column, we're negating Q. So we have false, false, let's see, true, true, and then false, false, and then true, true, because we're just negating column 2. And now for P and Q, we're joining column 1 and column 2 with a conjunction. So true when both of them are true, false else in other scenarios. So let's see, P and Q, we have true, true, and true. And now every single column is a mix of both true and false, false and true, or false and false. So because all of the rest contain a false in it, in at least one, we can just say that all of these are false. And now let's do P or not Q. So we're making the disjunction of the first column with the, let's see, not Q, with the fourth column. So yeah, this column over here, I should have pointed to it more obviously. Okay, let's do the first and the fourth. So it is a disjunction, so when one is true, we just put in true. So for P, it is true for the first one, true for the second, true for the third, and true for the fourth. Now P is false for all the rest, so let's look at not Q. So we then have a false here, not Q, where are we? Then false, and then we have a true and a true. So then true, and then a true. Okay, now we are ready to fill in item G, which is a conjunction of the, let's see which column this is. This is 3, 4, the sixth column and the third column. So a conjunction of that. So for the first row, we have true and true. So this gives us true, and then we have, let's see, false and true. So that is false. And then we have true and true, so true. And then we have false and true, so false. And then let's see, we have true and false, so false. And then we have false and false, false. And then we have true, true, true. And lastly, false and true, so false. And this is we're done with item G, so let's just check this. So all we're missing now is I and J. So let's fill in also these auxiliary columns. So for Q or R, we're doing the disjunction of the second column with the third. So the disjunction is true when one of them are true. So then we have true. And let me just write this a little better. So we have here true. Let's see, the second and the third column. So true or false, that is true. Then we have false, true. So true, then false, 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 true, 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 false, true, false, true, true, and lastly false, false. So false. So using this, we're ready to fill in our truth table for item I, which is the conjunction of this column over here. And let's see the conjunction of P, so the first one. So let's see, we have true and true. So true, then we have true and true, true, true and true, true, and then true and false, false. Now all the rest are false for P, right? So false, 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 false. And since we are doing a conjunction, it will be false too. So we can just go ahead and input false without even checking the Q or R. So we're done with I. Let's put a check mark over here. And lastly, we're just doing J. So let's fill in this auxiliary truth table for P and R. So that is the first column and the third column, first and third. So let's see, true and, yeah, so that's true and true. So true, then true and false, false, true and true, true, and then true and false, false. And like we did with the previous example, because the rest for P are false and we have a conjunction, we're just going to put false, false, false. Okay, and then we have to do the disjunction of, let's see which column, P and Q. So this column over here, and which one? And P and R, this column. So we're just doing the disjunction for both of them. So let's see. For the first one, we have true and true, so that is true. The second, we have true and false, so true. Then we have false and true, so true. And then we have false and false, false. Now all of the rest are false for P and R, so our truth value is just going to be determined by P and Q, which is also false. So the rest is just false. False. So let's see. Yeah, we are basically done. And I think what's cool is that it's noticing that this truth table is equivalent to this one. So we can say that these statements are equivalent, which is also known as I believe it is the Boolean law for distribution. So let's just check that we are done with our J, and then I'll just kind of zoom out so that you guys can look at the full picture and just look at these truth tables.